Today I'm going to show you just how fun and easy it can be to draw characters in Procreate, even if you're starting out a little messy, which is honestly kind of part of the fun. I'll walk you through a simple process to help you loosen up and bring your characters to life. Now, what you're about to watch is just a tiny sliver of what's included inside my new course, Character Drawing Essentials. Doors are officially open, but only until April 8th. So if you've been dreaming about drawing your very own characters with confidence, this is your chance to get every tool, every resource, every technique I wish I had in the beginning. Plus, right now only, you can get in with 25% off with special founding member pricing. But once the doors close, the price is going out. So if this brings you joy, come join us inside while doors are still open. All right, let's jump into the tutorial.
So here on this 3/4 view, I begin by winding up for the ball of the head. And then I press down and draw the circle with the jaw hanging off of it. And I bring that right into the ear. Then I place the neck as well. And I place the shoulders. If you observe the negative space around her, it can help you place these things. Now I'm adding in the jugular notch and the rhythmical lines of the clavicles. Now I'm just redrawing this head shape a little. And I start to fill out this eye on the left. I'm just trying to get a feel for these eye socket shapes. Now I roughly place the eyes. Now I place the nose with a little oval this time, using more pressure on the bottom than at the top. Now I roughly place a marker for the brows, and pull back the head shape a bit. Now I place the lips with the hexagon shape, and I lower the opacity. Then I go in a bit more confidently, thinking about the shape of the eyes and 3/4 view. And I continue to mark in the other features with a bit more confidence. I'm just putting down basic shapes for now, to sort of mark their placement, to see if I like the proportional distance between the features before I move on to more detail. I'm not spending too much time on any one feature just yet. Now I'm working out the shape of the head, and the cheek, and the jaw. Now I'm placing those irises. I decide to make her looking at us instead of away. Now I'm adding a tone for the lips and a little bit more detail on the ear. Now I add in the head shape and the neck. And then I add in those clavicles more cleanly. Now I add a new layer so I can start playing around with hairstyle. I begin first with bangs to see if I like the look. So I'm thinking about how these bangs would pull from the root and curve downward. Now I'm trying out a short hairstyle. I don't love it, so I turn that layer off and add a new one to experiment again. Oftentimes I'll rotate through a couple hairstyles before I find one I like. This time I try a long piece falling down, and I try out the look of a big low bun. I don't think this is going anywhere, so I undo to try again. I really didn't love any of the options I drew, so I delete them all. And I head back to the eyes as I try to decide on a hairstyle. I'm happy with the proportions of her face, so I'm okay now with going into a bit more detail. Now I'm just darkening up the upper eyeliner. Heading back to the hair, I start with the middle part, and I sweep this part to the side. Then I draw loose hairs falling out, and I decide on 2 low buns. Again, look at references if you want less experimentation and want to just settle in on one thing, or free draw and see what happens. Now I'm refining the jaw shape a bit, and I'm adjusting the shape of the head and hair. Now I'm darkening up her irises. And I decide to erase the shoulders because I want to lift them up a little. It's always okay to change things up from the reference. I like to draw a V-shaped neckline in this sort of portrait sketch. I find it's a nice way to end the shoulders and chest. Now I'm adjusting the shape of the buns. And now I add lashes to her, remembering that they'll flow around the curve of the lids. You can observe real eyes to see how the direction of the lashes change. I'm feeling good about this sketch, so I lower the opacity and add a new layer to clean her up. Now I zoom in and work on the eyes. I draw the top of the eyes using angular strokes. Now I'm adding the upper lids, and then I add the irises. You can see I'm using a slightly thinner brush size than I did before. My brush size will typically be larger when I plan my sketch, and then get thinner as I become more confident in the piece. Now I'm working on the triangular shape of the nose. And I add a bit more detail on the lips, basically using the techniques talked about in the drawing mouths section earlier. Now I add a cast shadow from the upper lid onto the eyeballs. And now I'm working out the shape of the hair and face. Just working to make everything I drew earlier a bit more clean. I'm erasing out some of these construction lines from my undersketch that I don't need anymore. And now I'm back to working out the hair. I try to use long, confident flowing strokes. The hairs would sort of group up around this ear. Now I'm redrawing the ear and jawline. You can see I often draw many lines to express one idea. I find this helps me come up with something more sketchy and free. So instead of drawing one slow line, I draw several quick lines to express my idea, and I think it works better for my style. I add a little choker necklace to give her more personality, thinking around the cylinder of the neck. Now I'm just adding the details back into the ear. And then I experiment with a couple different ways of drawing her hair over here. I've always liked the look of hairs falling out and framing the face. I think it works well compositionally. I also play around with the idea of adding little pom-poms to her hair, but I decide against it. Now I'm adding in the clavicles again, raising them up from where they were before. And then I erase the neckline of the old undersketch since I don't need it anymore. Now I'm redrawing the clavicles because I think these lines got a little too thin here. And now I merge the layers since I'm happy with them, and I add a new layer. And now I'm adding on some longer lashes. You can add a couple really light lines like this over the nose to help show the roundness of it. Now I decide to try out a different neckline top design, adding 2 dark straps and a V-shaped neckline. And I darken her irises as well. So I think the t-shirt's a little too dark. So I take the selection tool, click freehand at the bottom, and select the shirt. Then I swipe down on the screen with 3 fingers to bring up this menu, and I press cut and paste. Now the shirt's on its own layer again, and I lower down the opacity a bit. And for now, here's the finished sketch.